Welcome to the Anson Podcast, and I'm delighted to say that we've got another external guest today in the form of Guy Barnett, who is the Vice President of...
Deputy Vice President.
Deputy Vice President of the Assistant to the Regional Manager of the... That's a joke from American TV series, which you might not have got. By the look on your face, you haven't got. Deputy Vice President of the Birmingham Law Society. So, Guy, I'm really delighted for you to join us today. And I think we've got quite a lot of stuff to discuss.
Deputy Vice President. I'll become Vice President behind Matt O'Brien when he becomes President in September. So, 18 months' time, I will be President, and it's going to come around very quickly. So I've got a lot of work to do to prepare for that.
It's one of the things that Birmingham or the West Midlands, Greater Birmingham, should be proud of in the legal profession. I mean, it really does make a massive contribution to the local economy, doesn't it? The regional economy even.
Yeah, I mean, to put things in perspective, Birmingham Law Society is the largest regional law society in the UK. It's the largest law society outside of London. We head up the Joint Five, which is the law societies of Liverpool, Bristol, Leeds, Manchester and Birmingham. But it is a very large and diverse law society. And over the last few years, it's expanded to incorporate not just law firms, but barristers' chambers and a lot of educational institutions as well, the universities and law colleges. So it's a really big organisation.
If you've got an interest in law both as a service and as a profession, you're pulling all of that together now.
Yeah,
and you've been quite involved in pulling together the different the law societies in the country, the Manchester one and the Liverpool, and getting them all to sort of work in concerts.
The Joint Five has been set up for many years, in fairness.
You've been getting them to meet, though, I've seen.
Yes, we've been meeting, but we do tend to meet every quarter anyway, so right. I can't take the credit for that. That was already well established. But we've just had a meeting of the local law societies in Birmingham, which was a coming together of all the regional law societies throughout the UK. And there was a desire over lunch for us to create the Association of Midlands Law Societies, which would be a sort of networking and coming together of Nottinghamshire, Leicestershire, Worcestershire and Warwickshire and Birmingham law societies, so that we've got more impact regionally. And this has been done in many areas of the country, but not yet in the Midlands. So when I become president in a year or so's time, that's one of the things I want to sort of really drive, so that, Birmingham Law Society, our strapline is one profession, one region, one voice. I think we'd be a more powerful voice if we could combine all those law societies to really speak for the East and West Midlands and bang the drum about what we do. Because it is a massive, massive legal centre. And
it gives the opportunity, and the legal profession gives the opportunity, I do see it as part of our role and where we're situated, to be able to say to people in the local community, particularly young people, look, here is a career where you can earn money to look after yourself and your families and be heavily involved in your local community and the businesses and the people who make your local community run. And I do think that law's got a massive ability to contribute to that, and not only just in what it does as in terms of providing advice, but also the charity events that it supports, sponsorships of local sports teams, all of that, being a proper sort of member. And I think that law as a profession in the West Midlands does punch above its weight. So I think it would be good to gather everyone together. The Law Society, though, it's as both Birmingham and the Law Society generally. At one point, it was actually the regulator, wasn't it? We were self-regulated by the Law Society, not perhaps by the Birmingham Law Society, but the Law Society generally. And then it's moved to us being regulated externally by the
SRA.
The SRA. But so how was that in terms of the local and the regional law societies? They're very much a sort of something of a social. What do we see the role of the Law Society in today's
I was
world?
At the bicentennial celebration in Birmingham for the National Law Society. And that was last month. And so the National Law Society has been created 200 years ago. I was talking to Mike Ward, former managing partner at Gately's.
Yes.
And he was a former president. And I was just reflecting that Birmingham Law Society had its bicentennial quite a few years ago.
So we're older.
And Mike said, and I was a bit confused by this, but of course Mike corrected me. He said, well, yeah, Guy, because what you've got to realise, it was the local regional law societies that they created themselves. And once there was enough of those regional law societies, there was a drive to create the National Law Society. So I said, so wow, so we actually created the National Law Society. They didn't create us. He said, yeah, that's right.
Because I think the professions, like the trades, were centred on cities 200 plus years ago. And the big part of, if you go back, say, 300 or 400 years ago, Birmingham as a city wasn't a particularly big city. The cathedral cities, in some respects, the capital of Midland probably should have been Nottingham, or, dare I even say it, where I am in Lichfield, which is the archdiocese head. But Birmingham, with especially as the canals began to be built, sort of set itself apart in the trades and presumably in the professions as well, by being quite open to people coming in and being able to establish themselves. And hence, it became the sort of, for a long time, the industrial heartland of England.
It is. And Birmingham Law Society was the largest and actually richest. And that's something that we benefit from today, because 150 years ago, local lawyers came together. They bought a building in central Birmingham.
Okay.
Created a law library.
Yeah.
And
I think.
Yes. Well, as a younger man.
Yes. When you still actually picked up a book.
Yeah. Well, we used to still have books, and we still own that building today.
Oh wow.
And we get a rental income from it. And a lot of people will say, so where was Birmingham? Law Society's offices, where was the law library? I say, well, go to Revolution de Cuba.
Oh, right, okay.
So Revolution de Cuba is our old offices.
Have you had a beer in Revolution de Cuba, stood where sort of 25 years ago you'd gone to pick up a book?
Yes. And there was a lady, Dorothy Webb, who helped run the Law Society. And I never realised at the time how famous this woman was, and understated. To me, she was just an old lady. But she was in my former regiment, the Intelligence Corps. She'd worked at Blexley.
Yeah. Oh, blooming hell.
And she actually worked in the Pentagon as well. And she died, sadly, a month ago, at the age of 101.
Oh, my God.
And she'd got an MBE and a French Gallantry Award. But she'd really had a life. And as a young man, I just thought that she was some old lady in the law library. I didn't know she was a war hero.
Would she help you find whatever it was you were looking at?
No, she did tell me to keep quiet quite a few times.
Ah, okay.
So, which was probably fair as a younger man. But
you'll tell me that you know lots, but you're unique as far as I'm concerned. There aren't many people who've had a sort of military background and gone into the legal profession locally that I know. I mean, talk me through that.
Well, I sort of left school, went into the army for a brief period, and got injured. So the army, in fairness to them, said, "Would you like to do a degree?" And at the end of that, you can rejoin and go to Sandhurst. So I transferred over to the Reserve Forces.
Yep.
Went to Bristol. Worked with the Officer Training Corps as an instructor, and also worked with my regiment as an instructor. And this was in the 80s, where everyone used to go interrailing. Well, I didn't. I'd go back to my battalion for 3 or 4 months and do a short-term engagement. Then at the end of that period, they said to me, right, are you coming back? And I said, I'd like to actually be a solicitor. So they said, fine. Well, can you honour the commitment and stay on in the battalion? And I did, and I stayed in the battalion till about 2009, 2010. So most of my service was in the reserves, in the local intelligence unit in King's Heath.
Oh wow! I didn't even realise it was located locally. I'm not going to ask too many questions about what you did there, because given the nature of it,
I'd have to kill you.
Yeah, you've signed the Official Secrets Act, I'm sure. And did you have to say, is that something you had to sign every year?
I was positively vetted, yeah.
Okay.
But it was a great opportunity to do something diverse whilst working in the law. So the army taught me a hell of a lot about people management, working in teams, and I met a really diverse group of people who were also in the reserve, actors, politicians. One of my recruits at the moment is a deputy assistant to Donald Trump, Sebastian Gorka.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I trained him. It's my fault.
He's not responsible for the tariff, surely. He's more on the intelligence side of things.
He is. He's an outspoken character.
Oh, wow.
He's an outspoken character. But the great thing was I got to meet a lot of people and do a lot of good, and I learned a lot of skills which have helped me, particularly as the law progressed through the 90s from being an individual lawyer with a secretary working on a caseload to building up large teams doing bulk processing of work. So it helped me structure those things.
As the law became more special, I mean, were you in the 90s, when at the start of your career, a lot of the lawyers, even say within Anson's or its predecessor firm, Hayden's, would go to the magistrate's court in the morning, work on a conveyance mid-morning, and meet somebody, a client for a divorce in the afternoon, and you sort of witnessed the end, presumably, of that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a very traditional training contract, or articles, as it was called then. I was an article clerk. You trained in 3 areas. I did matrimonial, crime and litigation. So I had that magistrate's court experience. I would be doing agency work at the county court. So literally we would get to work in the morning and there's 40 applications.
Oh, wow.
And you're down in the county court in front of the district judge.
You're there for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you are. But it's a great experience to be on your feet, which I don't feel the young lawyers today get.
No.
They don't get that face-to-face experience. And but yeah, coming out of my training contract, I started to do litigation work and pulled a massive deal. I didn't realise how big this deal was at the time, but I was doing all of the regional and northern work for Allianz Cornhill with road traffic accident work.
Okay, yeah.
And literally one day just ended up getting 50 or 60 cases, which was a phenomenal amount of work.
Yeah.
And at that point then had to stop doing work in other practice areas, focus on personal injury, road traffic accident work, and then quickly build up a team of, which initially were secretaries, who then became paralegals.
Yep.
And had to then try to run 300 or 400 files, which would have been a lot in those days. And at the time, computerisation just came in. So I wrote one of the first systems, one of the first case management systems on DOS.
And they would call this workflow now. This is getting the work. That's what I'm being told by everyone. Where I first came across you, and not in terms of became aware of you is probably a better way of putting it, was Blakemoor's in central Birmingham, which in many respects are really sort of ahead of its time. I remember walking through, I worked for about a year at Eversheds, and as you'd walk through, I don't know if it was in the train station or if it was in the Palisades Centre, as you go up and then go down the ramp past McDonald's, there was a stand there, Lawyers for You, and I thought that was a blooming great idea that that there were people there. I think presumably just taking a little bit of legal advice. And
I've still got the intellectual property to that brand if you're interested in buying it, Martin.
Well, maybe we'll have a discussion after this.
Blakemoor's was always, even before I joined the firm in the 80s, well ahead of its time. The firm had been set up by Roger Blakemore in the 60s. His father was an estate agent, and Roger thought it was great to set up law firm offices above his father's estate agent in Coventry and Warwickshire, which was looked down on by the local profession because at that point estate agents couldn't refer work to law firms.
Oh, right, okay.
So it was obvious that what was happening.
Yeah.
And Roger built the firm up very quickly. And by the mid-90s, we had 18 branch offices. So we were the largest law firm in the UK by number of offices. And on a good day, I could name them, but we had offices all the way from Ashby de la Zouch, Atherstone, Nuneaton, Warwickshire, Tamworth, Atherstone, Solihull, Malmesbury, Tetbury, Oxford, Coventry, Rugby, Broadway. It covered the entire UK. And the plan was that it was going to be sold to the West Bromwich estate agent, the West Bromwich Building Society.
Right, okay, yeah.
Because the West Brom are going to move into legal work for the obvious reasons, linking with mortgages.
Time there.
But you know, with
08 comes, yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't 08. The problem actually occurred in the late 80s. We have a recession every 8 to 10 years, and it does cull law firms. And so we went through a process of shutting those offices down, and which was fine because we were getting bulk work from referrers, from estate agents, for conveyancing and for personal injury from insurers, credit hire companies. But by 2007, you were having to pay referral fees. Yeah. And it was taking all the profit out of the work. So literally, we thought we needed to re-engage with clients. So having consolidated the firm into a large office in Leamington and Birmingham, I thought, I can't open up 18 branch offices. I've just shut 18 branch offices. So we took the view that we wanted to engage with people, and we felt the most effective way was to create pop-up stands, or law hubs as we called them. Yeah. And we put these in heavy footfall centres. So you would have seen them in shopping centres or railway stations.
I did, yeah.
But we would have them at sporting events. We were prolific in gay pride. We were at gay pride events. And we would tailor the legal advice on the stand to the community we were in. Yeah. And it was a full-service operation backed up with a large call centre. We branded it Lawyers to You because the potential clients who would speak with our reps would, they could have any legal issue, and it wouldn't always be appropriate for Blake.
It might not be one of their areas of specialism, so you might need to refer that on to someone else.
So we didn't want to brand it Blake Moores. We branded it Lawyers to You because we were bringing affordable quality solicitors to consumers in an environment and at a price that they wanted. And we had volumes and volumes of work coming in. So in some ways, it was very ahead of its time. And the uptake from people on the street, they liked it. Yeah. And we did get a lot of criticism. And I can remember being in forums whereby some very eminent judge asked me what sort of people we had on stands, whether we had lawyers. And I said, well, we just have normal people. And he said, well, what do you mean normal people? And I was thinking, you must be a judge if you don't know what a normal person is anymore. Yeah. And I just said, look, just normal people. Give me an example. I said, Iceland mums. Yeah. And that made the headline of the Times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, law firms bring in the Iceland mums. But what it was about was having customer-facing people who people could tell their problems to. That we wouldn't give legal advice out on the stand. We would just be fielding the initial inquiry. It would then go to a call centre, get vetted, and then go to a lawyer at some point. But it was all about engagement and developing rapport. And we found it really effective. Because you must know what it's like, Martin. You'll be in a pub, you'll be watching the rugby.
Yep.
And you'll be trying to watch the rugby. Some stranger starts to talk to you, and they'll ask you what you do, and you just think, don't say you're a solicitor, because they'll immediately say, I've got a legal problem. And they'll tell you your legal problem as a complete stranger, and you just think, well, why wouldn't you come to me when I'm doing my day job? And it's because it's the approachability. So one of the things about Lawyers to You was
removing the coming in, which is intimidating for people, right? To come into a law firm, and especially 20 odd years ago, that they look a certain way, they smell a certain way. There's lots of marble dependent on the law firm that you're working into, and I think it's bringing down. The idea was bringing down all of those barriers. Because people have got these problems, right?
Yeah, and it was very effective. At the time, we were paying a phenomenal amount of money for personal injury referral. This was when the market was there for personal injury. So it was a no-brainer. We just switched the marketing costs. But once the bottom dropped out of the personal injury market...
Made it very difficult.
That model was no longer affordable. But the concept and the lessons that we learned were invaluable. And we gave a phenomenal amount of experience to... law students who get work experience in our call centres in Birmingham.
And many of whom are now sort of leading partners in firms across the West Midlands, which I'm sure is a massive source of pride to you.
It is. It really is. I've been out of Birmingham for, about 10 years after Blake Moores, and I came back Birmingham was very different. This would be after the pandemic.
Yeah.
I was walking around all my old haunts in the centre. I didn't know anybody. Birmingham had changed so much, and I felt like I was a ghost walking around. I thought I've died, but I don't know anybody.
No. The sixth sense,
yeah,
the Bruce Willis character almost.
Yeah, very much so. But then I went to a Birmingham Law Society event and met a few old friends. Tony McDade at number 5 was just about to be president. He welcomed me back. He said, "Guy, you haven't been in Birmingham for 10 years." I just like to say, "Welcome back, welcome home." And it brought a tear to my eye. Tony brought a tear to my eye.
Well, listen, Guy, if you're one of the best dressed men in the legal profession in Birmingham, Tony McDade takes it to another level.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't taken it to the point where I wear James Bond shoes, but I mean, Tony's done fantastic. He was the first president of Birmingham Law Society who was not a solicitor. Everyone thought Tony was a barrister, and he wasn't. He's obviously head
chief clerk of initially number 5 chambers,
yeah.
and again one of those people, the sort of legends that everyone would know, from the cleaner to the CEO of Jaguar or whatever.
Absolute legend, and he told me a story that once he'd been made president of Birmingham Law Society, he was actually put forward for an award. Barrister of the Year, and he had to sadly decline it and remind them that he was actually a barrister's clerk.
also somebody's really good at getting tickets for events, I'm told. He's a big Manchester United fan, I'm told.
Yeah.
You can get tickets for virtually anything.
But Tony, we've had some fantastic presidents in Birmingham Law Society over the years. I can name nearly all of them. They've all got their different characters, and they've put their stamp on the presidency. But Tony was quite special.
Just moving back to that what you were trying to do with Lawyers for You. I do have a concern that legal services over the years have become actually out of normal people's reach financially.
Yeah.
Law firms, a lot of targeting when you get to business development forums and all of that, about targeting high net worth individuals, of which there are only so many. High net worth individuals. You only need to do a little bit of litigation to see just how often people are representing themselves and some of the difficulties that causes.
Yeah.
As a profession, we need to. It can't just be done with pro bono either. We've got to get better at being able to provide affordable legal services to everyone, right?
Yeah. At the time of Lawyers to You, the market was very different. We, as a firm, did a lot of legal aid work. We did immigration and asylum, did a lot of childcare work. And it was about obviously giving people access to not just pro bono advice, not just legal aid, but also fixed fee and affordable work. And what we found is that we would call clients consumers.
Yeah.
And we would find that consumers, in their purchase of professional services or retail, they're looking for value. And value is determined by price and quality. So sometimes value to them would be having a standard will at a fixed price. But if they've got more complex wealth issues, then it's having a solicitor at an hourly charge out rate, putting forward some sort of structure.
More sophisticated,
yes. But it's working out what is value. And the big question, I still don't think it's been answered, is that how do people want to have legal services delivered, and how much are they prepared to pay? And the reality is that some people want a higher quality service because they've got more complex matters, and they're quite prepared to have things delivered, in a certain way. But other people are prepared to have a more of a standard package at an affordable price.
Well,
and the thing I was working on with Lawyers to You at the time was that we don't recognise that outside of the UK, other jurisdictions have very different ways in which they service legal product. So what I mean by that is that in the UK, we are getting used to having before the event insurance. It may be attached to your household insurance or your car insurance or to a membership organisation. But at the moment, I don't feel that there's a product out there whereby people can buy into a proper insured risk product which covers you for legal services in the future, in the same way you'd have with dental or healthcare or anything else.
Yeah, there isn't quite. I mean, there isn't actually a sort of what you might call a general risk insurance policy out there, which would kick in. I mean, when I've got my own home insurance, I went and got the before the event legal insurance, and the point of that is that if I was to get into a personal dispute, a dispute with my neighbour, that would and should cover the legal costs of that. And it could be, those things can be complicated. And for people to have an insurance product, which if they did, we hope they don't get divorced or there were issues with access to their children in the future, that in the same way that you can get dental insurance that will cover the costs of root canal surgery. Yeah. Why wouldn't we have a product that would cover that would properly cover your divorce or your child access?
I mean, at the time, I was looking at products that were being put out in Germany and North America, which were a lot more advanced. I don't know how those systems have progressed over the last 10 years, but I think there's certainly a scope in the market for that. And I think that this is going to come now that we're seeing some major brand coming into legal services.
Well, I was going to move on to that. And you put on a very interesting forum recently in Birmingham in your role as the Deputy Vice President, and it was a forum in relation to technology and the law, and you had
Sam Grice.
Yes, from Octopus
Legacy.
Yeah. And Octopus are the people that you can buy your electric and gas from them, but interestingly, what they really revolutionise, and he explained it well, is how they're using technology for the billing system, so that people got accurate bills and the utilities were able to sort of deliver those. And they used sort of, I mean, it's sometimes it catch-all word, but they used AI technology to be able to read and understand a meter reading and to be able to make sure it was delivered to the right person. I'm probably explaining that terribly, so sorry, Sam. But and actually, really interestingly, their software product, they not only have their own utilities system or utilities business, they then also sold their billing service to the other big utilities.
Yeah, I mean, Octopus, everybody would think of Octopus as an energy provider, and that is a big part of what Octopus do. The power behind the energy company is their database system, which is called Kraken. And I would have thought they would have kept that to themselves, but actually they
licensed it. Yeah.
They license it out, so every energy provider uses that, I believe. So off the back of Kraken, they acquired a private client service to provide wills and enduring powers of attorneys, and they've got an AI program which runs off Kraken. Yeah. Again, Sam Grice, New Zealander. I mean, he's a genius, and we both listened to it, and we've probably got it completely wrong.
No. We'll have to get him on. We'll have to get him on the podcast and let him explain it himself, because we're probably doing.
Well, if you can remember, it was a managing partners forum, and a lot of the managing partners there were looking at AI, which has come along very quickly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were very sceptical of the benefits that AI could bring to legal services, and Sam, really put everyone in his places to, we're already doing this. And he explained how, they were scanning will banks and then sucking the data from those wills and putting it straight onto Kraken, and then they were able to do bespoke marketing letters. And then by going through a very simple script with clients, they could rewrite wills, which could then be checked by solicitors, and really simplified and brought good quality to that aspect, which created more time then for people, rather than in generating the document, enabled them to really engage with people. And of course what they do is they use that period to understand what the person really wants and upsell other things. So when you do your will, it's a great opportunity to review your wealth management, just to make sure that you're covered to
well, I mean, the will would go hand in hand, of course, as well. And I do think it's almost more important, at least with a will, we have got law on intestacy that's there. The lasting power of attorney, I would say, and it's something that I'm determined in our firm, that we are, not only because it's a business opportunity, but more importantly, it's something that really does add value to our clients' lives. If you're buying a house much after the age of 40, we should be saying to you, look, do you want to get this LPA sorted out? Because I have, in both family and friends and people that I know, had to deal with a situation where, unfortunately, a family member has got dementia, and then you're having to go through court processes to be able to deal with their affairs financially. It's a nightmare. It takes ages and causes distress, all the way around. The banks will help you up to a point, but having that LPA with, whether it be one of your children, a trusted friend, your partner, being on that LPA and getting that sorted out, I think that's something that that the legal profession is going to add great value to people's lives if we can deliver those affordably and really democratise it, really.
Yeah, I mean, with the law, 15 years ago, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, about Tesco law?
Yes.
And how it's going to revolutionise the legal landscape. Well, Tesco law never really came.
No.
Although Co-op Legal Services did.
Yeah.
And Co-op Legal Services had its ups and downs, but I believe now is performing very well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the game changer that it was predicted to be. So 15 years later, Octopus have entered the arena. Octopus Legacy appear to be doing very well, and they've embraced and are leading on AI. And believe it or not, there's now Octopus Amicable, which is offering a divorce solution.
Okay.
And the ethos behind that is moving away from the confrontational stance of spending lots of monies, sort of litigating a divorce, and the move is towards amicable and mediation, which is coming. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they move into that. But if they're moving into that, it can only be a short period of time before they move into
everything, really.
Well, residential conveyancing is an obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that this will pose challenges to law firms, but challenges that certainly we at Anson's are up for, and we sort of back our lawyers, we back the people that we employ to gain that sort of trusted advisor status with our clients, and we think that is the moat. And to enable us to do that, to be able to sort of have competitors, external competitors, and fight them off. However, I think that we are going to have to get the workflows right, and embrace the technologies ourselves to be able to deliver value to our clients, because if we don't, there'll be somebody else out there who will, and it could well be the likes of Octopus, and it could well be some of we can see the new entrants to the market, with the lead punch seemingly being technologies, as we've seen in other areas.
We're always trying to work out what's going to happen in the law, what's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years. How's the model going to change? What's it going to be like for high street lawyers?
Yeah.
And we're always hearing doom and gloom. It was Tesco law. There was going to be a game changer.
Yes.
It didn't come. We've then had private equity coming in, and the buying up of law firms and creating big law firm structures.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss that with you. Yes, well, go on. Let's raise that now. Private equity. Yeah. So just so for people who are watching this, these are private companies, typically with money, with capital, who will invest in a certain area. Typically, we've seen it in the accountancy profession in particular, buy up a large number of accountancy practices, put them together, and then actually hopefully get them working properly together, and then in the end sell them off. And we're seeing increasingly in the law, certainly as we are headquartered in Lichfield and Cannock at both ends, from Stoke in the north to the north of us, and FBC to the south of us. The private equity is coming in, and law firms are being built up based on outward investors. 40 years ago, you had to be a lawyer to invest in a law firm, of course, or longer than. In fact, that probably changed about 2010. I believe the Clemente reforms.
There's another Managing Partners Forum coming in June, which you must come to.
Okay.
Because we've got a chap called James England from Debrett's coming to talk about private equity.
I know James, yeah.
So it's a golden chalice for a lot of law firms, because some law firms have succession issues. New lawyers coming in don't want to become partners and take on the risk of ownership. But also, with private equity coming in, it means that firms can sort of invest in new technology and expand and work on their workflows without relying on the partner's own capital or bank capital. So it can be attractive. But you've got to get the model right, because obviously, as lawyers, we're used to making a profit and taking the profit out. We've now got to make a profit, have a good living for ourselves, but also develop a return for private equity. And most private equity, when they put money in, they're going to want their money out with a good return within 5 years. So private equity will be looking for firms that can fit together in something larger or something that can scale, but something that can give them that return.
By making it bigger than the sum of its parts in some respects.
Yes, but with that comes risk. And we have seen some large organisations like Metamorph end up failing and being intervened on. And it's not easy. So I do look at private equity, and I do see the scaling up of law firms through amalgamation, and I get it. But also I see a lot of firms like yourself who are growing very well organically and sort of thriving. And there's a lot of that going on. So if I was in a law firm, I had 3 or 4 offices, making a good profit. As long as you're keeping on top of developments, you're able to get the talent in. And
that's the challenge.
Yeah, talent's a big.
I think certainly. I mean, I do think with the professions, a big part of being in professional practice, whatever that profession was that for the longest time you did, in effect, get promoted into ownership. You know, that's what you worked there long enough, and then you became a sort of owner manager or an owner practitioner of a law firm, of an accountancy practice. Private equity sort of removes that, and I have heard, and I do accept that there are lawyers out there who don't want to do, don't want the financial risk, want to practice as a lawyer without all of that being there. Although at the same time, I still don't think that that's everyone. I do think there is a contingent of lawyers who do want to own and be, control their law firm from a position of also having a stake in it. I know that there are some private equity models that allow an ownership stake to occur. I think that there is a challenge, and I accept that with law firms, and we could reel them off between us, and I won't on this podcast, whereby in effect men, and a lot of time it was mainly men in the 60s, and being able to get somebody to raise the capital to buy them out so they could retire was impossible, and slowly those firms die, and we've seen it. We've seen it happen. We could reel off the names of those firms that have really had that sort of succession problem. I think that you're right. I think the only way that firms like ourselves can continue to thrive is getting the recruitment and retention piece right. And we very much want to create that pathway for young people from our local communities to start working for us in whatever capacity to start with, and have that sort of career ahead of them. And if we can almost flood the right people into our practice, we're confident that that we can get that person as a really effective lawyer 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. We have, I partially put it down to the 2008 crash more than COVID. I think that had that was the sort of biggest change that I divide my career, even though I only really started in 2001, into the period before then and after then. The amount, it really did fall off a cliff in terms of the recruitment that law firms do, and we're still suffering from it now. Because if you want to find yourself a 10 or a 15-year qualified private client lawyer or a divorce lawyer or whatever it might be, they aren't there. Lateral hiring, as the expression goes, is really tricky.
I've got a recruitment business called Talent Perception, and we specialise in finding those people, but we call those unicorns because they're so rare. And what you're looking for is someone to join your firm who really is looking not to move around. So they don't tend to be on the job market. So it's very hard to attract the sort of talent that is going to be the right fit for your business. But that's why being forward-thinking, bringing in the technology and having the culture and work-life balance, that's what people are looking for now.
I think you've got to be able to offer that. You've got to be able to offer what people want in terms of work-life balance, in terms of some people will want to be able to do a certain amount of flexible working, hybrid working. And we've taken a bit of a point of view there because we're so focused on driving new and young lawyers through, that to be able to train people, that is a sort of contact sport.
It is.
And in the same way, I mean, it really hit home with me. You said about being in Birmingham Magistrates Court with like 40 files. Yeah. You learnt more there than you would have done at university. At probably a week doing that was more than any of the other legal training you've done in your life. And you know, I know that I've trained people that have trained me. You learn so much through that osmosis that it's so difficult to recreate that in a hybrid working format. That doesn't mean we don't offer it at all, but it's difficult.
It is. And this is what's bringing the challenges. Hybrid working is great if you're, you know, in your 40s and you've got a steady flow of clients coming in. It means you can work on your other life issues, children, elderly parents, or just having flexibility. But how do you build teams underneath you? How do you pass on your skills? So these are all bringing challenges. And in Birmingham Law Society, we've seen that, you know, during COVID, you know, we've had students who weren't even at university doing the training, or people who've done the training contracts and they were out of the office. You know, people don't know how to network.
Yeah.
Not in the old... I mean, when I joined Blakemore's in the 80s, Roger Blakemore, I was sent to the Ashby office, and he gave me £100 on the Monday morning, told me to bugger off and not come back till Thursday, and just go and find out about the town. I went back to the office on Thursday night. He said, right, tell me about Ashby. I said, well, there are these pubs, bum, 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 and I knew all the estate agents, and I knew all the accountants, and I knew all the bank managers. And he said, right, now you know them, get some work off them.
Is Ashby one of those towns that has one of those, like, football matches where in the middle of the... is it not? Is that Ashby?
No, that's Atherstone. I live in Atherstone. I live just north of Atherstone, yeah. Yeah, that's always good fun.
But listen, I definitely, I mean, that's one of the skill sets that's fallen away a little bit. Some of it is, I mean, let's just be honest, even when I was coming up in the early 2000s, the law and drinking and networking with synonymous alcohol has fallen. There's still a little bit around the edges, but it's fallen off.
And so it should, because the profession that I grew up in the 80s and 90s was...
beer-soaked.
Yeah, I mean, my former managing partner, Peter Miles, who was a brilliant lawyer, was in the office at 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning every morning, and he would finish at 1. And then he would go networking, which was always centred around drinking. And ultimately, you know, Peter died of you know, drink-related in his 50s. It was sad because he was more than that. But it's the way that it was the drinks culture. So
developing networking events. I mean, I saw this on your LinkedIn only this morning.
Yes,
which was developing a networking event that I know you're keen into this, but paintballing, and to have an activity that was. I don't know if you're paintballing or axe throwing there. I know the centre there. It's behind McDonald's on Bassett's Pole Island.
It is. I was talking to Matt O'Brien. Matt's presidency is coming up in a few months, and we've decided we're going to put down a schedule of events. Yeah. And we want to do something a bit different rather than formal black tie events and the usual networking. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have a family fun day. So the MPF Bassett's Pole, the adventure park there, they've got a 200-acre wood. They do every single activity you could imagine, axe throwing and pistol shooting and paintball and inflatables and everything. So what we're looking to do is to throw out a festival, which will be family orientated, for the members and their children, and that will be combined with a bit of a music festival as well. So you heard it here first.
Yes, yes. Well, but I think that's refreshing to hear, and I think that your modern young professional, or your modern professional, full stop. The day you can go to some of those sporting lunches. I'm of the age I still enjoy them. I'll be going to one in a couple of weeks' time. What I've noticed is I should, by this stage, feel like the old guy there, but I don't, because it's aged with me. So you actually go there at, a tough paper round for me, but at 46, 47 next month, I'll go to one of these events, and I don't quite say I'm one of the youngest there, but I'm not far off, right? Yeah. Because, and it is, we're not. We've got to develop networking activities that allow the profession to engage with their fellow professionals, with people in industry, that isn't a pint or a glass of wine. That there can be bits of that around it. There can still be a bit of a place for some of that, but and no doubt there will be at the music festival that you're going to put on. Yeah. But at the same time, I think stuff that is different, that is family friendly, that does allow you to try something like axe throwing. I mean, that does sound fun. Have you had a go at this axe throwing?
I have. I'm absolutely useless at it. When you see the videos on the website, it looks easy, but it's not. It's not. But the idea is that trying to get people out into an outdoors environment, something that's a bit more healthy. A lot of the networking things that we go to, it means that you're away from your family, and being able to have a fun day means you can bring your family. There's some entertainment on. The kids and your partner can enjoy the day, and you can do some light socialising. And I think there's a real desire for lawyers to socialise more, to share ideas and pass on knowledge, and
but also to build up those communication skills. Yeah. I mean, in some respects, when you got started in there, chucking you out the door to walk around Ashby, that old managing partner.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, people that Gen Z, if that's the right expression, sort of will, even in law firms, will hide behind the email. You will ring them to ask them something and the phone won't be answered, but you'll get an email saying, oh, sorry, I missed your call. Yeah. And a lot of the time I do sometimes think that is people who don't enjoy speaking on the telephone. And I think that that's something that we need to address. And family-type networking is definitely a way forward.
What I've noticed in doing a lot of networking with Birmingham Law Society and just general networking myself, a lot of people are forgoing alcohol, and I'm embracing that, and I'm just starting on that journey as well. So, it's good. It's good. But Birmingham Law Society, we're looking for the members to say what sort of events do you want for us to put on. But it's a member-driven organisation.
So hopefully they'll engage in that. Well, Guy, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I think everyone will find that interesting, particularly some of your career experiences for what's been a really varied career. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon and we can explore some other matters that are facing our profession and especially I think we'd love to have the president on when you put that. Does it come with some kind of like bling? Will you be looking like Mr. T when you're the president?
Yes. We have 3 medals, so I have a medal already.
Okay.
But that's a blue ribbon with a medal on. It's 150 years old. I've been told not to lose it.
Okay.
When I become vice president, I get a slightly larger medal, and then when I'm president, I get the full medal, which is quite impressive, but not as impressive as the one that the Liverpool president's got. I mean, he's really got a bling one.
Well, maybe this is what we can make the Birmingham Law Society President's Medal great again. We've got to beat the Scousers, surely, with a big old blingy.
Well, you need to get Matt on. He's the next president in a month or two, and I know he'd love to come on to explain what he's doing in his presidency.
I will absolutely get him on. That'll be fantastic. Thanks, Guy. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for your time.